everybody, and welcome to our this evening's program, the History of Gasparilla. We're excited to have you here. We're excited to have Carl, our presenter, with us. My name is Chris with Tampa Hillsborough County Public Library. We have Carl Zielonka with the Tampa Bay History Center with us, and we're very excited to have this program and to learn about history of Gasparilla. But before I hand things over to Carl, I am going to do our book shout out. Every program we like to do this, and this book is The Legend of Gasparilla and His Treasure by Carolyn Arnold. This is an ebook that you can check out from our Hoopla collection. And you can learn about all of our ebook collections at hcplc.org/ebooks. With Hoopla, there's no wait. With some of our other collections, there is a wait, but with Hoopla, you can instantly access it. So we invite you after this program to go grab it and enjoy reading it. So, with all of that out of the way, Carl, I'd like to officially welcome you, and we're very excited to have you here. I'm going to give you presenter control now. Let me go ahead and hand over the screen to you. And once you get sorted with that, I will turn my mic and camera off. All right. All right, well, I'm going to mute myself and turn my camera off, and take it away, Carl.
Okay, I see there are a bunch of you out there. Thank you for coming tonight to hear about Gasparilla. I'm Carl Zielonka. I'm a Tampa native. I have even marched in the Gasparilla parade when I was in high school. And I wanted to spend just a little bit of time telling you about that great celebration we have called Gasparilla. And you can see on your screen that I'm here on behalf of the Tampa Bay History Center. If you haven't been, we hope that you will come and visit us. We are open. We are making sure that we observe all of the proper COVID protocols, and we welcome people there. The only thing that we're not doing the same is we're not going out to groups and talking to them in person. So you have to hear me tonight. The history of Gasparilla. First, let's talk a little bit about this fellow named Jose Gaspar, who's the pirate that we all celebrate. Back in the 17th and early 18th, the 18th century and early 19th century, there was a lot of piracy on the high seas. And there was especially a lot of it in the Gulf of Mexico. Somebody said once, to the famous bank robber Willie Sutton, "Why do you rob so many banks?" He said, "That's because where the money is." And it's the same with piracy. Why was there so much piracy in the Gulf of Mexico? That's because there were a lot of ships there, and they were following the Gulf Stream on their way back to Europe. So piracy was very prominent for a short period of time until it was outlawed, and most of the pirates were either arrested or chased away or put in prison. So we're going to ask you a couple of questions at the end, and we're going to let you make your own decision about Jose Gaspar. Was he really a Spanish pirate? What do we know about him? And why do we celebrate his legend in Tampa? So Jose Gaspar supposedly was born in 1756. In Seville, Spain. He attended the Royal Academy, and he went into the Navy. He was a naval attaché to the court of Charles III, and he was doing okay until, unfortunately, the legend goes, he jilted the king's daughter-in-law. And they gave him two choices. You can either go abroad or you can go to jail. And so he said, "I'll go abroad, but I'll do it my way." And he commandeered a ship and escaped with a bunch of criminals and called himself Gasparilla. And he sailed across the Atlantic Ocean, and he made his base at Charlotte Harbor on the west coast of Florida, where he continued attacking merchant ships up and down the west coast to Florida, all the way down to Cuba. He was supposedly a very ruthless guy, killing everybody except the beautiful women, and he held them on Captiva Island. At the age of 65, he decided he was going to retire and divide up the loot with his crew. He spotted a British merchant ship, or what he thought was a British merchant ship. However, it was a disguised British naval vessel. They ambushed him. He had left 10 men behind on the beach, just in case. Gasparilla reportedly went to the bow of the ship, wrapped himself in the anchor chain, and jumped overboard, saying Gasparilla dies by his own hand, not by the enemy's. The ship was sunk, and the people he left on the shore hid chests of treasure up the Peace River, and these men were supposed to guard it. Well, how do we know this legend about Jose Gaspar? One of his crew was a fellow named Juan Gomez. They called him Panther John. Panther John started spreading legends of Jose Gaspar. Sometimes he said he was the cabin boy. Sometimes he said he was Gaspar's brother-in-law. Sometimes he said he was even Gasparilla. He told the stories of the buried treasure up the Peace River, and he told stories about the death of Jose Gaspar. Well, were his stories fact or fiction? We do know that the USS Enterprise was off the coast of Cuba in December of 1821. We do know that no treasure has ever been found. And we do know that there has been no shipwreck found near Boca Grande. So I'll let you think about these things for a little bit, and we'll talk about how did the celebration of Gasparilla get rolling. Gasparilla was promoted for many years. It was a good story. You've heard of the Gasparilla Inn down in Boca Grande. Well, the Charlotte Harbor and Northern Railroad went down there, and this was an advertising brochure that they put out advertising the Gasparilla Inn in Boca Grande. Jose Gaspar made good press and good advertising to advertise it. How did Tampa get started with all of this? Well, Gasparilla was a publicity stunt. The society editor of the newspaper, along with the local the business establishment here, the director of customs, George Dodge, they decided that they wanted to have a festival in Tampa. Things were too quiet around here, and they wanted to get tourists into town. So it started as a May Day festival. And the first festival was celebrated on May the 4th, 1904. And they tried to combine the elements of Mardi Gras, bringing in the dashing pirate Jose Gaspar. This gave the people around here something to celebrate at a pretty quiet time of year. This was their first proclamation. Our desire to now quit for a few days our wave-washed kingdom, and with its most trusted and favored courtiers and knights, to visit your city of Tampa, whether for friendly salutation or subjugation, remains to be determined. It has been decreed that our royal party will appear in your midst at some hour during your May festival. If our entrance be opposed and our reception hostile, the consequences be upon your heads. And here was the first celebration in 1904. The invading pirates coming in on horseback. The Tribune called them ye mystic crew, and they came in with all of their royalty and their garb. And after they had conquered the city and had their parade, they held a coronation ball at the Tampa Bay Hotel. In 1905, they made an alliance with the Florida State Fair. The Florida State Fair had started also in 1904. You can see their float was on a car. Now, there were only 60 cars in Florida, in Tampa at the time, but they could only find enough drivers for 3 of them. After this big celebration, the wives were sent home, and the men went to the Rathskeller in the basement of the Tampa Bay Hotel, and they celebrated till all hours of the night. There were no celebrations from 1907 to 1909, and the crew disbanded. Well, fortunately for Tampa, in 1909, Congress passed a resolution designated Tampa as the nearest adequate port to the Panama Canal. And this gave an excuse to start up Gasparilla again. At the time, there were blue laws in Florida. That meant you couldn't have dancing or shows or things on Sunday, and you couldn't have flying. The crew pretty much ignored this. They had a flying exhibition that was performed on a Sunday. They had plenty of drinking. The people were put in jail but they were brought out of jail, and they flew over Tampa, making it the first night flight in the history of aviation. This was an early float in 1911. This was the first arrival by water, and they used anything that floated. It was launched from the Tampa Yacht Club, and it landed at Plant Park, right downtown, next to the Tampa Bay Hotel. They borrowed anything that would float: shrimp boats, trawlers, barges, anything that they could get that would hold a pirate. Later on, when the Drawbridge was built, they would sail underneath the Drawbridge, Kennedy Boulevard. The pirates would bet amongst themselves how many times the ship would hit the concrete abutments of the bridge. And the Tampa Tribune held up its printing and would not go to press, because the editor was certain that one day a pirate would fall off the ship and be killed. And they were waiting for a headline for the next day. "1913 was the first time they used guns in the parade. 1915, at the captain's dinner out in Ybor City, they actually had baby alligators on the plates. 1916, pigs and chickens, en brazos, whatever that means, were thrown overboard. During World War I, the celebration was suspended. In 1926, the pirate ship cut the underground telephone cables to Hyde Park. And in 1927, a pirate standing high on the mast shot a blimp. After that, only handguns were permitted on the ship. The parade grew bigger and bigger and bigger over the years. The 1930s, you can see, in 1937, there were 54 floats, and corporations sponsored them. In 1950, National Geographic magazine featured the Gasparilla Celebration. And in 1956, the Earl of Hillsborough visited. This was significant because Hillsborough County was named after his great-grandfather, who was sent here when this was British territory. Later on, he came to see the parade, and it was a major event for him to do that. Gasparilla grew bigger and bigger. The parade route was changed many times. When I marched in the Gasparilla parade, it started downtown and ended up at the old fairgrounds, which is now where the University of Tampa is. Then they moved it so that it started on Bayshore and went into downtown. And that's the way it is today, where it marches along Bayshore Boulevard. And it makes for many, many more people to celebrate Gasparilla. There are now more than 65 crews, with Ye Mystic Crew being the organizer. The second crew was the crew of Venus, and it was the first co-ed crew. And the Rough Riders was the first non-pirate crew. And the Rough Riders commemorate Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders who camped on the grounds of the Tampa Bay Hotel during the Spanish-American War. And they give out teddy bears to children every year at Christmas time. And the crews have many, many exotic names. The crew of Venus started the tradition of throwing beads to people. The crew of the Knights of Santiago started the night parade in 1972. The children's parade started in 1947, and it was the weekend before the main parade and invasion. So the Gasparilla parade itself is actually 4.5 miles long. It has been hosted by the crew of the Knights, or the night parade has been hosted by the Knights of Santiago since '74. And there's been a pub crawl during the day, which starts in Ybor City, and they drink their way down 7th Avenue. There are many, many other events associated with Gasparilla. The Gasparilla Distance Classic has a half marathon, a marathon, and a 5K. That started in 1978, and it runs through the streets of Tampa. The Gasparilla Music Festival is at the Riverfront, Curtis Hickson Riverfront Park. The Gasparilla Art Festival started in 1970. It has now moved across the river to the new park on the river just north of downtown on North Boulevard. The Gasparilla Film Festival started in 2006. And there is an international film festival. So there are a lot of things that are happening in association with Gasparilla over the years. Now, remember I told you these facts. So do you think that Jose Gaspar was real? Or do you think that he was just a good story that was passed down over the years and that we were lucky enough to use for our celebration? On behalf of the Tampa Bay History Center, thank you for coming. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. And I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, I just sent you a webcam request, Carl. So if you can, I'll bring my camera back up and we'll get to the questions part here.
Hold a second. You have to take me off because.
Yeah, here, I'll do that. I'll do that as well. One moment here. I'll make myself the presenter. And then let's see.
Okay, I've got it over here. Okay.
All right. What a great presentation. Thank you, Carl. And we do have some questions coming in.
Okay.
And I'll remind our audience. Feel free to post your questions, everyone. We'll get some answers here from Carl, and I'll get started here. So someone would like to know, did people throughout time ever try to find the treasure? Have there been searches or expeditions for that?
There have been many attempts to find the treasure. There aren't any maps. Supposedly, it was up somewhere up the Peace River.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally on the beaches down in that area, there have been coins that have been found, but his 10 chests of treasure have never been found.
All right.
Too bad.
I know. Yeah. I know you were talking about, how it was used for publicity, like a publicity stunt and stuff, but how was the story spread otherwise back in the day? Were there pamphlets and books published back then, or was it more of a word of mouth type of thing?
It was, from the time that Panther John started spreading his rumors over the years, I'm not sure how long Panther John lived, but the rumor was spread up and down the coast of Florida. And of course, marketing people, when they get a hold of a good story, start using it.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
it was a good way to entice people down here. So apparently it was a legend that just floated around the west coast of Florida for many years.
Yeah, it took off for sure, because here we are still talking about it, right?
That's right.
Let's see, what do we got here? All right. Although the history of Gasparilla is questionable, are there any true pirate histories in our area that you know
of? Jean Lafitte in the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh,
There was a lot of piracy in the Gulf of Mexico and in the Atlantic, just because of the Gulf Stream.
okay.
So there's a lot of pirate history in this area.
Someone's asking about, Someone's asking about Panther John. Did he live long enough to attend one of the festivals?
Other than the fact that Panther John was around, I don't know much about anything later in his life, and he certainly did not live long enough to come to any of the festivals. He would have had to have been 100 years old probably. Because the
Mhm.
picture we have of him, we think he was fairly old. That picture that I showed
Yeah,
up.
right.
And that was the 1830s and 40s.
Okay. Let's see. What's this next one? Okay. It's tough to know, were the original Gasparilla festivals open to the public, or were they only open by association, like some local crews associated with the civic associations? Were they closed off? Or were they open to everyone?
As far as I know, it was a community-wide celebration, just like it is now. The crew had its own private things, just like they do now. But as far as the celebration, it was a way for the community to have a May Day celebration and be able to get tourists. There was another tourist thing.
Right.
Let's get them down here. We need not only we need something to do, we need to get people down here during May. They don't, Northerners don't come down here in May. They come down here in the winter.
That's right. So let's see, what's this question here? Who plans and approves any of the new Gasparilla events? I mean, I know they added the film festival and the music festival. Is there like an organization that oversees that?
I don't know the answer to that, but I think the celebration, Ye Mystic Crew is sort of in charge. And what
Right.
happens there, I don't know anything beyond that, and what its relationship to the business community or the city of Tampa is officially.
All right, we've got time for about one more question. Let's see. Well, I guess I can ask about the History Center. I know right now it's things are a bit different, but in previous years, did the History Center do anything special to participate in the festival? Did you all participate in the parades or do anything like that?
We haven't that I've been aware of.
Right. Okay. Are there any special exhibits at the History Center about Gasparilla?
There we have on our third floor a treasure seekers gallery, which was just added about 2.5 years ago, and it is devoted partially to piracy. We have a 60-foot long pirate ship in the museum on the third floor. We have a pirate adventure kids can do. We have artifacts and things that have been brought in that were discovered under the sea that are on display, and it's quite a thing.
Wow.
I
Well,
would
I need
also
to go check that out.
a new exhibit opening this weekend on fossils,
Oh, okay.
which is it's on the third floor.
That all sounds very interesting. Okay, well, I think that's it for questions. I'm going to go ahead and bring my screen. Oh, wait. Oh, someone says that thanks for the really interesting presentation. Someone in the audience is very grateful, as are we. It was very good. Let me go ahead and bring up our closing slide here.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. We're always happy to have the History Center sharing their expertise and knowledge. All right, so here, if you'd like to contact the library, you can call us at 813-273-3652, or you can go online at hcplc.org/contact. You can also go on our website to see what upcoming classes and events we have planned at hcplc.org/events. And of course, there's the Tampa Bay History Center website. You go to tampabayhistorycenter.org to find out all about the great exhibits they have there. And we're really grateful to have you here tonight, Carl. Thanks so much for joining us, and I'd like to thank everyone else in the audience for joining us. Hope everyone has a great evening, and we'll see you all very soon. Thank you, Carl. Have a great night, everybody.
Okay, night.